it's funny because I say this in just about every political conversation, and I preface with it's like, I'm that libertarian short of anarchy, and that, people in California saw me as the gun-toting redneck. And when I lived in Nashville, people saw me as the gay-loving liberal because they naturally gravitate to that probably 5 to 10% that we may disagree with. And I say may because it's probably closer in that shade of gray.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We have a very special guest today, Richard Ryan. You all know him, I guess.
I don't know if maybe. You know him or not. I don't know.
He's Black Rifle Coffee is a thing. Full mag, crypto, Web3, do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to put me in a box. People will ask, so what do you do exactly?
Yeah.
It's like, how much time you got?
Well, yeah, I'm the same, I guess. I do a lot of weird shit, but not like you're a Renaissance man.
Well, the way I explain it to people is like, I start with, I'm a subject matter enthusiast.
Yeah.
I get really, really excited about things, and I go hard in the paint, 110%, and I give it 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
You're also a sugar addict.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Well, I don't have a glucose monitor on.
But you did.
Been monitoring that for a while. It's good. It's good. There's I don't know if it's a recall, but there is a warning out for chocolate right now. It's a lot of the manufacturers, Ghirardelli and whatnot, that the state of California has found that they are over their threshold in Prop 65 and heavy metals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just as a FYI.
That's not great.
That's a great way to start off.
Yeah. I mean, I eat, if I want a snack before bed, usually what I eat is dark chocolate covered almonds, right? Because dark chocolate is really good for sleep for some reason. I don't know what it is. Cacao does something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that sucks. Is it? What kind of chocolate are we talking about?
Death sentence for me. It's dark chocolate and stuff like that.
God fucking damn it.
I know
It's always something.
Yeah, those Lindt truffles are like crack for me, and they're probably really bad for
Well, they're made with fucking palm oil, which is basically poison, right? And it's also not great for the environment, the way they,
slash and burn.
What are you going to do? So before we started recording, we were talking about, I guess, extreme libertarianism.
Yeah.
Some specific subjects, but I posed the question to you: how would your life change if the federal government evaporated immediately? Now, you never answered that question.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
I tell people for you, it's not.
For me, it is in a lot of ways, because like I'm the guy. I tell people I'm libertarian short of anarchy.
I guess your FFLs wouldn't.
And if
necessary
you eliminate
anymore.
The federal government like that, and it evaporates, there are a lot of things that would cause anarchy right off the bat, right?
Yeah,
because
sure.
it destabilize, the global, the world order in that sense, because we're the global reserve
Well, I don't give
currency.
a fuck what happens in other countries.
Yeah, but I mean, the second order effects would, we wouldn't have a military, and I don't think that people could organize in a way where we would trade one evil for another, we would lean on organizations or companies to do so.
But there's always going to be something that provides services.
Yeah.
But it is, frankly, I think it's a better idea to have someone who I can say no to in charge of that, rather than somebody who can point a gun at me and tell me to give them 40% of my shit, which is what happens every single day here, right?
Yeah, and I think you and a lot of other people are on to identifying those problems that we have in specifically the United States, but abroad as well. The things you really have to look at are, what are the incentives, and how are they causing the system to be inefficient, that destabilize. If you were to look at it as an organism, it would be like, the government has a parasitic relationship with its host, to the point where it is, it's going to kill the host, right? Where you were talking about starting a nonprofit that would, do away with what
food stamps,
and
yeah,
stuff
SNAP
like that.
benefits, yeah.
And again, you're looking at the incentive mechanism. You could argue, and we're going to go on a rant right here, but you look at like the last election cycle, the incentive mechanisms for a lot of the voters, regardless of the FTX $100 million incentive that was stolen from people to allegedly stolen from people to sway an election, but the incentives were, hey, look, if you've got student loans, we're gonna bail you out, and all these other different things. These carrots, like pass to amnesty. If you come here illegally, we're our party is for citizenship and everything else, which is a whole nother, like each one of these deserves their own like dedicated focus about the incentive and how it's maybe not accurate, right? Like if I were the Republican Party, I would say, hey, look, like, fuck those Democrats and them talking about, no, they're the party of indentured servitude. They want more government, and they're promising you this carrot, but what it does is it causes inflation, and it's like long-term implications are they're going to keep you on the teat for a longer period of time. The Republican Party, if they said, hey, look, we're running in an issue with like population collapse or whatever it is, right? You say, hey, we want legal citizenship, or a path to legal citizenship. And actually, like, I haven't looked at what the Biden administration was proposed as far as the app and everything else, but I think the more people look at, hey, look, we should, like, Mexico is our largest trade partner in that sense. And like, so we should have a good immigration policy with them and a path to, if people want to come here, hey, come here.
I wrote my thesis, my master's thesis on this exact subject.
Actually. Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was, I compared the U.S.-Mexico border to the Germany-Poland border, because Germany had the same problem with Polish people that we have with Mexican people, right? Which is that it's not that they come here to work, it's that they come here and work and then take all the money out of the economy back to Mexico. That's typically how it happens, right?
Yeah.
And also just the illegal activities that happen surrounding that and the and all that. So Germany's solution was to issue work permits to pretty much any Polish person that wanted one, right? Provided they're not a criminal, and they can come over, work, go back, do whatever the fuck they want, right? There's some tax involved there, but they put the onus on the business. If you're a business in Germany and you hire an illegal immigrant, at least this is back then. Now they're like, they're overrun, I guess, with Muslim immigrants, right? But at the time, if you're a business and you employ an illegal immigrant, you don't get fined. Your business is shut down and liquidated.
Oh, wow.
The end, right? Yeah. And I think that's probably the only way to do it. You're not like, so if you're talking about stick and carrot, you're not going to tell somebody from Venezuela or Guatemala or even parts of Mexico that, hey, you're fucking, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to punish you, right? We're going to deport you. If you couple the people they're like, all right, fine, I'll come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Eventually I'll get in. You're not going to, even the fact that so many of these people died just on the trek to get here doesn't stop them, right? So that means whatever is driving them out is stronger than whatever we can do. You know what I mean? The onus has to be on the business. Otherwise,
and
like, what the fuck?
Again, like that's how I analyze any problem, right? It's like, what's the end state goal? What are you looking to achieve here? And then again, what are those incentive mechanisms in that system that are causing certain inefficiencies? And then you define, refine, and until you come up with a thesis as to what would get you to that end state. And if you screw up along the way, shit happens, right? You refine that process, or you refine the incentive mechanism. But I think the problem is, be it with media or, all these different industrial complexes that benefit from those inefficiencies, and maybe they're propaganda campaigns. And it's unfortunate. And that's why, I feel like we have an opportunity in society, specifically the United States, with, our First Amendment, where a lot of others, don't have that benefit, right? So like, kind of segue into some of the stuff that I'd be building over the next few years is really to shore that up, right? Like the decentralized component to that, and creating those mechanisms that people can distribute without in permissionless systems.
Sure.
And you look at the last election cycle and everything, and it's there's a lot to take away from that. But I feel like people are kind of waking up to those issues. They just don't have clear paths to refine those processes.
Like when you wake up to that and finally admit to yourself how predatory, not the government is, but how predatory government is, generally speaking. I think it's a lot for people. I think they get, like, it's easier to become nihilistic than it is to try to fight your way out of it at this point, because we're so used to things just operating behind the scenes. People don't know where their food comes from.
Yeah.
It's like steak doesn't grow in a lab and then get put on the shelf at the fucking grocery store. It's an animal that gets shot in the face with a goddamn bolt gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we're so far removed from all of the things that are required of us just to stay alive. We've surrendered our liberty in that way for convenience. Not for, like Ben Franklin warned about, sacrificing your liberty for temporary security, but I don't think he ever imagined we would do it just out of sheer convenience.
Yeah,
right?
The COVID thing is a complete eye opener. But again, like what we were talking about before, opinions are cheap.
Right.
So what's the path to success here? Like what are the things that we can experiment with in refining this current? Because you're not going to be able to snap your fingers and say, "Hey, government's gone." And anybody who tries to do that, they're going to end up in Guantanamo, right?
As they should.
Yeah.
To be honest, because you're putting, like, not that I care about protecting the government per se, but you would be putting a lot of other people than yourself at risk, and
right.
You don't have the right to do that, right? Yeah. But there is so when I say, if the government evaporated now, how would it affect your life? It's because I want people to think about, what is it exactly that the federal government does for you? Because that's the first part of developing a plan to eliminate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how can we replace these things? Food is one of them. People need food.
Yeah.
Regulation. Like, I don't, the extreme libertarian idea that the market will simply regulate itself is, I mean, robber barons have been around for a very long time, right? And in the absence of fucking some kind of regulation, they've run roughshod over people, right? And fucked them up and become monopolies, as you mentioned before. But, the way that we do it now, through government regulation, through crony government regulation, where they're fucking making sure their state or their friends get taken care of first, which is fucked up.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't work. And there must be a better way. And you have a right to appeal whatever is levied against you by the government, but you appeal that to another branch of the fucking government.
Yeah.
Right. The idea that the Supreme Court exists as a function of government nominated by the federal government is fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I sue the executive or legislative branch for something, for unconstitutionality or whatever else it is, damage, any kind of compensatory damages for my business or my liberty, the ultimate judge over that is somebody who was literally given the job by that person.
Yeah.
Or at least that entity. And that can't be the way this works.
But what's the alternatives, right? So you get somebody who's
a tribunal, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. But that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Is like, they may not be perfect systems, but what are the alternatives? We have like an Amazon appointed Supreme Court that, like.
Well, have you ever seen that show, Continuum?
No, I haven't.
You should watch it. It's really interesting.
Okay.
It's like a Canadian sci-fi made by the same people, I think, that made Battlestar Galactica and Travelers and a couple other shows. But that's what it is. It's a corporatocracy. So there's a corporate Congress in this show, right?
Interesting.
And that is the danger, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's kind of probably with lobbying already.
Oh yeah,
loosely
certainly. And that, by the way, that's
very intertwined.
That is the
that's the incentive mechanism to try those.
That's the literal definition of fascism, by the way.
Yeah,
the corporate government merger to suppress people. It's like, all right, cool. I guess we're doing this.
Yeah. So we're unpacking a really complicated subject. But so you were talking about you're talking about things that it doesn't do well, and the sake of spending money and everything. But you look at emergency use authorization, how it could be abused for the COVID pandemic.
How it was abused.
How it was.
Right, because...
But what I'm saying is how,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, okay,
So
yeah.
like you look in the event of a disaster, a natural disaster, a hurricane, right? So you're reallocating funds from the collective to ensure that this national infrastructure...
You're using a lot of euphemisms, by the way. Reallocating funds from the collective means robbing citizens of their money.
Yeah, but
right?
But
like you're not entitled as an organization, government.
I'm playing
or otherwise
devil's
to do
advocate
that.
here,
Okay,
so I'm not arguing on behalf of the government.
No, I know.
But what I'm saying is like you being part of the system are agreeing to the terms of this.
No, I'm not. I didn't agree to fucking pay 40% of my income in taxes. Did you?
Well, I didn't.
The quote unquote social contract. Did you sign anything? Were you allowed to take part in the development of the rules? Because I wasn't.
Well, I mean that's kind of in part of being a citizen, right? Like that.
No.
Between the Constitution and the laws that we live under.
Oh my God, man! Come on. Yeah, I mean, certainly there's some like you have.
You're agreeing to the terms of the rule.
No, I was born here.
Yeah.
I didn't agree to that, right?
But you also have the option to migrate.
Sure, I do, but not to a place like why should I have to migrate on the land? I own property here, right?
Yeah.
And I paid quite a bit of money for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I have to pay more money for it every single year because of these cunts.
We could unpack that too, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have strong opinions about the state of Texas and government and inefficiencies and the laws of a good example is property taxes are exorbitant here, right? And the reason for that is a lot of that goes to the educational system.
Yeah.
And the educational system's relying on property taxes to fund it.
And by the way, it's not an educational system, it's an educational cartel, right? Because if you have children, one, if you're a property owner, you're forced to pay into it,
yes.
whether you have children or not.
Correct.
Which is fucked up. Two, if you have children, you are forced to send them there. Like you can send them to a private school, but even if you're a land-owning parent, even if you choose private school, now you're getting fucking double taxed.
Yes.
Because you're paying for the public school and you're also paying for the private school. Nothing about it. That's a cartel, right? That's not an institution. That's a cartel.
So, and that's where I say that the incentives aren't really aligned. Mm-hmm. Right.
Because how you're being held at gunpoint.
I get that. I mean? How do you shift that? Right. So what are the necessary changes that need to be made? Well, one, how do you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back to move this thing down the road in a way that makes sense? I'll give you an example. I grew up in Georgia, and we passed the lottery there, and one of the terms of that was the Hope Scholarship. If you maintain an AB average in high school, you could go to college for free in the state. I think those incentive mechanisms to incentivize, the students to excel are important, right? We want smart children, and we want to pay for their schooling and everything else. So it's like, okay, well, what are the opportunities in the state? Well, the state hasn't legalized cannabis. Let's not create more legal loopholes and cronyism by the good old boy network like California or some of these other states where they'll say, hey, we'll allocate X amount of permits for people who are kicking us back funds. It's like it's statewide legal, but we're gonna put a sin tax on it that's gonna fund the education system. Now again, that's another tax. I get that this isn't but it's moving the incentives more in line to what we would hope in our thesis is a healthier society. Right. So it's taking the burden off of the landowner. It's incentivizing it's making homes more affordable, those who might want them. And then it's also incentivizing for smarter children, which hopefully go into the workplace and improve, our industry and our politics and everything else. When you say, hey, we're going to pay for your schooling for free if you vote for me, that's not an incentive that leads to a healthy society. It's to people who look for handouts,
right?
Which ultimately, whether or not they're smart enough to realize it, continues this indentured servitude where you're always looking for a handout so that they're going to either print more money, bail more companies out, and the cycle is just going to keep going. Yeah. Inflation's going to take root.
I agree with that. I mean, look, if there's 2 things that concern me. One is that half measures very rarely work. right? And I think that
Sure.
playing inside of this
Something's
system,
better than nothing, though.
Sure, I guess. Is it though? Because
I do.
sometimes something just prolongs the problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if
Like a little bit of chaos is good from time to time, as it says on my arm. From the Tree of Liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Right.
I totally get that, right? But I
Not
I
that
still,
I'm advocating for violence,
I'm
YouTube. I'm just
on a
saying.
scale of like if I have a bucket, I would rather have a half full bucket than an empty bucket on principle.
Maybe, right? What comes with the half full bucket? Is it like the oppression of my personal liberty? Because then I'll take the empty bucket and I'll go find some way to fill it myself, right?
Yeah, but you're like, here's the thing: is like again, you're talking snapping your fingers and removing all government,
Sure.
and that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
without some type of intervention.
It's
foreign or domestic
process.
Militaries.
No foreign military is coming here.
Well,
we'll get
never say never.
We'll get into the I don't think there should be a standing army. I think it's ridiculous that we have a fucking 1.2 million person standing army for what?
Yeah.
For what?
Well, I mean,
train people.
Again, you got to look at
to
incentives.
Fucking fight.
I
know why.
Yeah.
It's because of the goddamn military, and it's because of Lockheed Martin.
And
right?
and again, that's a term that gets thrown around so like casually that I think it's lost a lot of its meaning.
Oh yeah. Well, here's
industrial complex.
Here's a way to assign some meaning to it. We've sent $100 billion to Ukraine, or at least allocated $100 billion.
Yeah, that's more than what we did to Vietnam.
Yeah,
it's more than what we did to even the entire time in Afghanistan.
Yeah. So 74 billion of that never left the United States. It went to companies in the United States to produce things for the war, right?
Correct.
So it's not like we're sending them money. We're sending ourselves. They're sending their friends money, and 25% of it goes to the actual end user, I guess, right?
Yeah. Devil's advocate, that's in part because we are not at war with Russia, right? That was the way in which we could do that without.
Sure. Let me ask you this: while we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, if Russia had publicly sent $100 billion to either one of those countries, would we have considered ourselves to be at war with Russia?
Well, I mean, countries do that all the time. I mean, China supports a lot of the people like, that are questionably at conflict with others.
Yeah. But if China had, or I'm sorry, if Russia had brought Zawahiri to Moscow, and put him up in front of the parliament, and then gave him a check for $100 billion, how would we have felt about that? Or the ISIS leader after him, al-Baghdadi or whomever else?
Yeah,
right?
I totally get it.
I'm not pro-Russian. I'm anti-bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we shouldn't be involved in this Ukraine thing at all. That we're getting off topic.
Yeah,
here.
we can intellectually jockey all but for me, I like those okay, again, opinions are cheap. What are the solutions? Like again, I don't think that we can snap our fingers and remove government without any type of chaos, anarchy, or revolution, right? So it's like, what are those steps then? I use Texas as that analogy, be it with incentivizing education through sin taxes or things that may be, again, it's more government in that extent.
Do you think there's I understand what you're saying is that you want to remove the tax burden from people. And make it, I guess, a sin tax, if you want to call it that, would be a voluntary payment.
Correct.
Because you don't have to do that.
Right.
Which,
the same thing with gambling, right? Where it's like, we've in the state, again, I've been targeted by all these ads about I feel weird saying this publicly because I haven't done as much research on it as I should, but I found I've been targeted with a lot of advertising recently
for gambling.
A proposition that was
it's that time of year
being pushed here in the state of Texas, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, vote for this thing or whatever. And so I looked at who was funding it because that's what I do, and then it's MGM.
Of course, yeah. Who else would be doing that? And
that's where those things I'm like I'm reluctant because I don't want that cannabis legislation where they only allocate X number of permits, and then it's these people who push and lobby for it that get them, and nobody else.
Because what MGM wants is for gambling to be legal in Texas, provided it's a licensed organization, and they help write what it means.
And there should be laws, like there should be rules, like
about gambling.
Like, you shouldn't be able to target 5-year-olds and stuff like that or whatever.
Why not? Parent your children.
There's parameters, right? You have speed limits on the highway system.
Sure, but that's a physical safety issue. That's not.
Well, I mean, you could argue that like financial security is a safety thing.
But
too.
that is you. Anytime you remove the impetus for personal responsibility, people
I completely agree.
Get weak really fast.
I agree.
And there are going to be some weak people whose lives get ruined by it. And you know what? Fuck them, because that's natural selection, brother. That's the way it's supposed to work.
I don't think so.
When we prop up the weak, it doesn't do any good for anybody, including the weak. They either get stronger or they go away.
I completely agree. In theory, but we're at a different time. Like,
sure, yeah.
When you were competing human versus human, that I completely agree. Right, Darwinism. Right, the strongest will survive. The strongest will further their genetic.
Right.
Down the line. But when you start talking about artificial intelligence and the ability to manipulate and understand the human condition better than the humans themselves,
sure,
that is a very unfair advantage. And if you are a corporation whose sole existence is to extract value from people, be it baseline intelligence or they could be intelligent, right? Like, but the fact that machine learning can exploit those things way better than any person could, I think that's a clear disadvantage.
Certainly it is, but so is being short when all the fruit is on tree limbs. You know what I mean? And that's how it fucking works, bro.
Yeah, I mean, but it's different. It's different in a way that, like, short of becoming a cyborg, I don't think people will be able to compete.
No, you can tell when you're being fucked with
right now.
Yeah. So what's the problem? Like what do you, at no point in my adult life, and look, I understand I'm kind of a weirdo, but at no point in my adult life have I seen an advertisement for something that I didn't want and then went to buy it. Like already, you know what I mean? Not once in my life have I seen an advertisement on the internet for any of the things that I like, meat, shoes, I like any of this stuff that I routinely buy on a regular basis. And like, oh, you know what? I'm going to buy that meat. You know what I mean? Because of the ad.
Yeah, that's a simple version of advertising. I'm talking about the nefarious
manufacturing consent and shit like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you start looking at, like, you take Chat GPT 3 currently in its current state. It has flaws, and it's becoming more of a talking point for those in the media and people that, they see the value proposition on the surface level, but the long-term implications are, if you're taking just artificial intelligence and the current learned, like, of all language, and you're applying that to a conversation with a person, at some point it's going to get better at communicating with that person than an actual person, because it's going to know not only the nuance of the conversation, but those things to achieve whatever the end state is in a more optimized process than any individual.
But that's how what percentage of your conversations are transactional, though? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I had a coach one time tell me, this was an acting coach, not a athletic coach. He's like, all conversations between people are either about power or sex, in some capacity, and money is kind of a representation of value, and power in that sense, and everything, and sex is about power.
Is it?
I don't know. It depends on who you ask.
To me, it's about fucking coming.
But it was an interesting comment. From him. And I think that was more to look at the psychological approach to it. But when you look at it from artificial intelligence, there's the potential to exploit, especially those initially unsuspecting. Like, and I don't want to get into too many of them, but there are you hear about bots on the internet and everything all the time, but there are
most of what people refer to are bots are just click farms. They're dumb click farms. That's it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to make any definitive statements, but I think that we will be shifting from this wild west of spending a lot of time on social media and all these other different platforms where the veil of interacting with a human goes to the wayside a little bit more, where you may get a more meaningful interaction with a virtual person.
What do you mean by meaningful?
Well, I mean, you think your friends are sharing photos or tweeting with you, and that relationship has value to it, maybe because they're interacting with you, but more because you think they're a person, right?
Because you're trying to, those are all details that you're binding together to try to hold the image of them in your brain, right?
Yeah.
Like that, you when somebody says they have a friend, what do they mean by that?
Yeah, and I think we're programmed like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And
100%.
so,
I mean, that's what your brain does.
And I think a lot of people may be unhealthy or unhappy right now because they spend more time in that veil than they do in interpersonal communication. And I think that people will shift more towards that as these language models get way better.
More towards personal communicate or
in person, yeah. Because it's going to be like I know that sounds counterproductive, right? Because it's like, oh, these language models are going to be great and they're going to actually be able to carry on a conversation with you. But then at some point, it's like, you're going to question every virtual relationship.
Yeah, I mean, certainly.
Is this real or is this not?
Yeah.
And
I mean, we're going to be, frankly, I think within the next 100 years, it's going to be like that movie Gamer, where people are just like, they're living through an android or some shit.
Yeah.
Like their consciousness is just being projected.
People are already looking for the tangible, like things. They want things that they know that a human made,
which I don't think
that's pay a premium.
That to me is super dangerous, by the way.
What?
The idea of being able to experience life without risk.
I agree.
I think it's not obviously it's less risky, I guess, physically, but
you could argue that's what gives it its value.
Sure, yeah,
because it's fragile and it's finite.
That's not an argument. That's just how it is, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, so let me rephrase that. It gives us the meaning.
Sure, yeah. So what people will do is they'll live out their fantasies. The same thing they've done with porn. And look, I watch porn constantly. Yeah. But there are a lot of young men, especially like men under 40, that are addicted to porn, and it's fucked up the way they interact with women. They can't do it anymore. Huh. You know what I mean? It's super fucked up. My buddy Chris Williamson talks about it all the time. Yeah. There's a lot of, and Huberman, I believe, has done some bits on it as well. It's not great. Right?
But again, that's the not necessarily, or maybe by design, but it's one of the byproducts of that is the incentive mechanism is the dopamine response. Sure. Yeah. Right. And so
this is one of the primary incentive mechanisms in nature for all species.
Right.
Right.
To procreate.
It's eat and fuck. Yeah. Right. Eat, sometimes sleep if you can. Right.
Right.
But eat and fuck is like the number 1 and 2 or 1A, 1B, maybe the two most important things you can do as a being of any sort, a tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't fucking matter. And when you're able to synthesize that, that's a fucking problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big problem for people. And I'm not anti-porn. I love fucking porn. I'm watching some right now in the corner here.
This conversation is so great. I got 3 windows.
But it is like, I always go back. I don't like the idea of not having something that's cool just because it might be a problem. Because I think back to The Coddling of the American Mind. I'm not sure if you've read it or not.
I haven't, but I'm familiar.
It's good. One of the phrases in it is that you should prepare your children for the road, not try to prepare the road for your children, because you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
You can't bubble wrap everything.
Right.
And now people are walking around these days, people that are fucking like 35 and younger, I guess, having lived in a bubble wrapped environment during their childhood, and they're out in the real world now, and they're offended by reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's offensive that I took out a loan and have to pay it back. What do you mean? That's not fair. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course it's fair. But when you remove all these, when you're able to operate and get these things that you want, and I take it beyond food and sex, or food, let's call it procreation, because that's the driving mechanism. But when you take it beyond food and sex, the next thing up is fucking rage. You know what I mean? Like rage is one of the most internalized emotions that exist for human beings, because it's socially unacceptable to express rage most of the time, especially in the way we want to. It's socially unacceptable for me to get pissed off and punch a hole in that goddamn wall right now. Yeah. Or for us to fight each other, or whatever it is, right? Like that, or you know, but in a virtual sense, over the last 20 years with social media, people have been allowed to openly express rage at any moment, and look at what's happened to society because of it. Now people feel like if somebody offends me, or if I'm depressed or something, it's okay for me to grab a gun and go shoot up a fucking Walmart or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but again, that's a very complicated circumstance, right?
It is.
Because I think that
the nihilism is that form of nihilism is present all over the place, right? It's in inner cities where people feel like they don't have any ownership over their own lives. It's in young men that didn't have fathers. It's in poor people in Muslim countries, young men especially, who fucking join terrorist organizations because they want some meaning and purpose in their life. These are all the same thing.
The meaning and purpose is an absolute like human condition that needs to be.
And you can't get it if you synthesize these base needs.
Well, that's why you look at people who win the lottery. Like all
they go broke.
All these different things, right? Because they lose their drive, their purpose.
Or even people that fucking like there is good research on this. I'm not just saying this, and I think a lot of people will have an anecdotal example of this in their head right now, but older men especially, like if an older couple, if the man dies, the wife will typically live on. If the wife dies, the man dies, right? If the man is a captain of industry or somebody who's worked hard their entire life and then decides to retire, they die, right? It's like Optimus Prime spark. You know what I mean? It goes out when your purpose goes out.
Right.
But you're still like, when it happens to you when you're fucking 20 years old or 15 years old, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I've gone through that kind of crisis.
Yeah, a lot of dudes have.
But we're covering a lot of different things. So like I want to at least like unpack some of it.
Yeah.
So you talk about the school shooter situation and the social media and the purpose and all those other different things. So like, let's just talk about social media first. You take the internet, and again, this is somewhat subjective, but high level and very much my opinion. But one of the reasons why we went down the path that we did was because there was a payment mechanism in the HTTP protocol, right? So when the internet came around, they applied the same monetization component as traditional advertising,
right.
i.e. Advertising like overlays or pre-rolls or native integration. So we went from the big three networks and commercial advertising to cable, 24-hour news networks and everything else. And they still had the same advertising models. And then that was applied to the world of...
but it was a one-way advertising model, which means this is something that you and I did together for a very long time. There's some data coming back in traditional marketing models, but not much.
Not a lot. So the attribution models
not just attribution, but psychographic data. From here is like this is a whole other fucking situation, dude.
But again, you look at how that was applied to web, and so the the monetization component is volume, either CPAs, cost per acquisition, or did somebody buy something, or CPM, cost per meal, or how many per thousand impressions.
Right.
And if you take and you want to quantify that in the most positive way possible, you're just going to have to get as many shares or whatever it is. That led to the attention economy, where it's like it's about sheer volume of impressions. How do I achieve the sheer volume of impressions? Well, again, it's not like there was one guy at YouTube that was just, hey, like I'm this evil mastermind. An algorithm is, by its definition, machine learning, right? It is a
well, it better be, because if not, it won't work.
It's a series of optimization based off of inputs and
multivariate
responses.
testing, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So whatever achieves the result that it wants, like it's going to optimize for that. And for humans, it seems that those negative experiences or fight or flight responses, those things, rage or anger or whatever it is, those trigger those things that ultimately lead to more watch time on videos, longer session durations and stuff like that, which they serve out more of.
Right. And it should
so
be,
you get more impressions.
It should be a something of a meritocracy. It should be, right? But we've grown because it's
how so?
Because it's input from the user, right? And you're just reacting to input from the user or the user, the group, right? And it should be like that. But what happens when?
But a lot of this stuff is subconscious, right?
Sure,
so like,
100%.
So you're spending 2 hours on social media platform. A lot of times people just fucking don't realize.
Zone out. Yeah.
Because they're hitting these dopamine responses and not really realizing it's having a negative effect on them. And that is just because the machine learning of the algorithm has optimized for as many impressions as possible, because the incentive mechanism is we want more impressions for more advertising, for more revenue.
Now, what happens when this to me is far more sinister, and I see it a lot. The Twitter algorithm is like this. Even today, I think it's still like this. What happens when the attention economy mechanism, the algorithm or whatever it is, the underlying tech or the underlying system, what happens when instead of reacting to natural virality of things, right, in the social media world, what happens when it starts programming for virality, right? It starts telling you instead of just figuring out what goes viral and piggybacking off of that, right, and utilizing that, what happens when it starts telling people what to like? It
goes from curation.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
goes to curation.
So this is Twitter has the outrage algorithm. So that same dopamine hit that somebody gets from seeing a girl in a bikini or a fucking cat, like cute fucking animal or something.
Yeah.
They get different hormonal responses from rage, things that piss them off, especially political things that piss them off, right?
Yeah.
And what happens when, as is the case with Twitter, I've referred to it as the outrage algorithm for a couple of years now, because if you engage on Twitter, if you just follow people, then we'll see. But if you engage and stuff like that, you'll start seeing more things that you hate, right? Like if you comment on, if you like Elon Musk posts a lot, you'll start to get more information that's in his ecosphere that's negative about him or about the idea. That's how the algorithm is set up. So that's one thing that I think is super nefarious, because they're not just activating on the positive emotional responses. They're also activating on the negative ones, fear and rage and shit.
It may not have been strategic though. That's where I would give them the benefit of the doubt.
When I say it's nefarious, I mean that it sucks for humanity.
That's why I go back again. That's why I go back to the original conversation of like, just because humans may have designed it to achieve the optimal result of the most advertising revenue it can, could come at the cost of a second order effect that wasn't intended by those engineers, was an unhealthy population because of that. So it's like, who's really at fault?
And you can tell, I said this when I've said this over the last year or so. That's what Jack Dorsey seemed like that to me over the last year or so of him being CEO of Twitter, and then afterwards, after Agrawal took over, he seemed like Oppenheimer. You know what I mean? Where he created a fucking a golem. He created a fucking monster and didn't know what to do, and he saw it like he made a lot of money off of it, but he seems like the most depressed dude in the world.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's I don't think it's because he's onto his new passion project he's doing. He's trying to do finance stuff again, right?
Yeah.
Which is, decentralized finance is a good idea. I'm glad people are working on it, but
yeah,
you could see it in his eyes that he knew what you're saying right now, which is that this has gone a little too far, right? And people are completely captured. But not only people, it's not just that people are captured by it as a form of entertainment. It's that it's integrated into their lives so much now. Business. How many people do you know that businesses depend on social media?
Yeah.
At least in some way. Most people that I know, right?
But again, I go back to the very, same thing is like opinions are cheap. How do we fix it?
Well, I mean, at the individual level, like you have people,
I agree.
People have to be resilient against things. Otherwise they won't survive.
Well, I think
that's always been the case, though. This is nothing new.
Yeah,
it's just a different fucking situation.
And I think those baby steps are extremely important for finding your purpose and your meaning on an individual level. And it starts at that, right?
It's why 11 million people a day listen to Joe Rogan.
How many?
11 million.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I just heard only 11 people listen. I was like, wait, what?
No, well, that would be quite the downturn.
Yeah, no, I agree. But so I think a lot of these people, tend to, not a lot, I'd say an unknown amount, but a substantial amount of people, they gravitate to social media because the personal relationships daily may not be sufficient, right? And
maybe,
and so it skews in an unhealthy direction, right?
Or maybe they're not getting, but this is what I think. I think they're not getting what they want out of their in-person personal relationships, and they're looking for it elsewhere. But that's not how that works. Like, because what you're getting here is not real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like
it's not real to some extent.
It's like chewing on a sponge to trick your brain into thinking you're fucking eating food. That's a thing that people used to do, right? Yeah. Like the process of chewing. It's like Pavlovian. The process of chewing made your body think you were eating, so it would suppress your appetite to some degree, but it's not real.
Yeah.
There's no nutrition there. You know what I mean?
I think in the past that was definitely, I think as these language models and everything become more intelligent and people who knows, maybe not. Maybe people will lean in it even more hard and just be like, they'll opt out of the physical experience for the virtual experience. But I think more people like us will see how that virtual experience has led us in an unhealthy direction, physically, mentally, emotionally, and will seek out more purpose in their communities.
Right.
And I think that is like, again, you want to talk about the schools and problems with students or, these different things. I think that there's been a breakdown from a fundamental level. And like, I'm not the religious ideologue, but I do think that people having shifted from purpose with families or organizations, even like sports teams or religions, whatever it is, to the virtual thing has led to some unhealthy circumstances. Because again, if your purpose as a child is those virtual relationships, and then they're optimized for a negative experience,
right?
That leads to a very unhealthy
You're
individual.
Fucked. Yeah. It's like, so all of the things that were bad about the way children develop in their younger years, socially develop, right?
Yeah.
Have been amplified to the infinite degree and are readily available 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right. And, but again, artificial, and they don't provide you with anything real. So it's no surprise that people feel empty and nihilistic now, particularly young men, right?
Yeah.
Who women and men are I guess the same. That's what people say now. You can fucking chicks with dicks and shit. No, women and men are very different when it comes to purpose, right? You don't meet a lot of women, and this isn't like an out of pocket or sexist thing to say. This is supported by all.
There's always exceptions to rules, but yeah,
certainly. But they're not driven by the same kind of purpose that men are. It's not even. It's very dissimilar in what drives people. So it's no surprise to me at all that young men are suffering right now because of this stuff. Yeah. People dump a lot of it on not having positive male role models, and I think that's a big part of it too.
I mean, you could say that, like, I'm not, I don't want to just beat up on social media and everything, but like you could say that men and women, boys and girls are like equally suffering in so many different ways, right? Because women are so vulnerable at early ages to like the nefarious, like, or we'll just say the negative components to social media.
Yeah, particularly about identity. Right?
Correct. The visual component.
Yeah. Like, well, when I say identity, I mean like, what is it about you that has value? Yeah. And we've taught the wrong thing over the past couple of decades, but particularly young girls. That's, I think, the biggest problem for them. I agree with that.
So, I mean, it's a really hard thing to unpack. I mean, you know, I try to look for, you know, my purpose, you know, on a daily and annual basis, and like even try to extrapolate that out to like my life's work or whatever. And for me, like it's funny because I say this in just about every political conversation, and I preface it with it's like, you know, I'm that libertarian short of anarchy, and that, you know, people in California saw me as the gun-toting redneck, and when I lived in Nashville, people saw me as the gay-loving liberal because they naturally gravitate to that probably 5 to 10% that we may disagree with. And I say may because it's probably closer in that shade of gray,
right, yeah.
Than like, you know, and a few examples would be like the whole abortion thing and everything. It's like the shade of gray is not whether or not people should or shouldn't have an abortion. It's like, well, do you consider an abortion by, you know, abstaining from having sex with someone when you could, or is it like, you know, 5 years after, you know, a child's gone through the birth canal, there's a big shade of gray in there. And so, you know, when you start looking at that, and even you pose the question of like, if people can't even come to a remote consensus in that conversation, then like, how are we even going to approach the conversation of when, you know, AGI may become sentient? Like in that sense. So it's like there's all these very complicated things, and I think that if we're going to address any of them, it starts like from, you know, the familial, personal level. It's like with your families, your friends, and stuff like that.
It always starts at the lowest possible level. Like if you're a fucking baseball player and your swing gets fucked up,
if you don't have the fundamentals established,
you don't go try to you don't go participate in a home run derby to fix your swing. You break your swing down into smaller increments and work on the load. You work on the swing. You work on the follow through. Right. That's right. This is I've used this metaphor before, but it's very obvious. And our swing as not just America, but that's all I really care about. Our swing is fucked, right? So what does it mean to get back to the fundamentals? What you're saying is what I tell people every fucking day. Forget about the big picture and work on the fucking small shit. Take back measures of control over your own life, and then help other people, enable them to do the same thing, right? And because the institutional power is like Tinkerbell. It only exists if everybody believes it exists. There's 535 assholes that were elected that live in fucking DC, but they aren't coming to your house to force you to do things. You accept what they fucking tell you to do because you choose to. Yeah. Either through your inaction or whatever. I think that the model, talk is cheap. Everybody's got opinions. I agree. We need a plan. My plan would be, or rather is, to find ways, and this is at the macro level, I guess, but find ways to replace government institutions that people rely on, because just because we don't like government doesn't mean there aren't problems that need to be solved. I readily admit that. And the other part is to get involved locally first with your family. The family is the smallest form of government, right? Get involved locally with your family first, in your community, and then maybe your city and state, but develop political organizations inside. They're not in your family, probably, right?
Yeah, like, no. It's funny.
We're not voting for who dad
is. I said the exact same thing. Like I did a podcast. Like I was going to do a podcast. It was like maybe 2014 or something like that. And I invited Collins out, and he came out in. I think that was the first time he went to Terran Tactical and everything too. And we were talking about like he shot a 50 cal for the first time. And for those of you that YouTube's Coleon Noir or whatever, or his Twitter handle and stuff. But and so we were talking about like how do you address these things? And I like that's exactly what I said. It's like the solution is very broad, and it's not a scalpel.
Certainly not.
This is like
one
blunt object.
One thing affects all others. Yeah,
and it starts with a family, and then it goes to friends in your community, your local government, state government, and then only then like will people really like have an accurate representation of their ideals.
Yeah, and that what you're describing, Richard, is called federalism, and it is our system of government.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the truly maddening part about this. Like we're not having some goddamn brilliant esoteric fucking discovery here. This is the way the government was supposed to work in the first place. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the second part to that is, in my opinion, is that once you establish in your local community, for example, like you have to get to a certain point for it to be viable. But once you establish in your local community, you start exercising something called nullification. Which is where you tell the next level up, no, I'm not doing that. And there's a huge roadmap for that. It's happened multiple times over the last 25 years. California, Massachusetts in particular started this trend of saying no to federally illegal weed, right? Like they were selling weed and they didn't give a fuck about the federal government. They like, cool, we're going to do it. Yeah. They did the same thing even after the Defense of Marriage Act was passed, which Joe Biden, by the way, authored and signed. Anyways, because he hates gay people, right?
Yeah.
But anyways,
don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah. Even after that was signed, Massachusetts and California once again nullified the federal government's law and said we're going to do whatever the fuck we want here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that is within your right to do as a state. It's within your right to do as a local community. And that's how you end. Like we're not going to vote our way out of this shit at the federal level. I don't know why people pay so much attention. Look, I get it. It's a fucking great TV show. You know what I mean? To watch all these fucking retards parrot around and lie and yell at each other and call each other Nazis and whatever the fuck, but it's not real.
Yeah. On the flip side, you get into situations like, and again, I definitely am the proponent of giving states more power, right? Because Californian ideals versus Texan are completely different. Nothing is more apparent than the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Right now, they're working themselves out, aren't they? The different ideals that California versus Florida have, for example. Right?
And I would argue is Texans are, a lot of women in the state are very upset about the way that has turned out.
A lot of people that like Republican economic policies are not thrilled about being told what to do.
And so hopefully they will force that change in whatever political institution they believe in, and that will force the state, to course correct,
right?
And whatever way, but
that's the way, and that's the way it's supposed to work, by the way.
Yeah, and again, that's a way more complicated subject again, where they would, I feel like nobody really wants to talk about like the definition of where life begins, but there's all these other different conversations to be had, and honestly, that's where I found my purpose. Like, whether or not I actually fulfill that, at least it's the thing that kind of gives me that North Star, is that I see those incentive mechanisms in society and government and everything else. And I see how they've been exploited, specifically the last 2 years. The whole emergency use authorization, censorship, take my YouTube career in that sense, and how, I was given a grant by Google and YouTube to build my channel, which is around firearms and explosives.
Right.
And then
not that long ago. Right.
I mean, it's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But still, but that was a substantial amount of money that they invested in me to build my channel out and dedicate my life to building this thing, only to turn the monetization mechanism, so I lose money or
Yeah.
have to fire people, all these other different things. And it's like, and that's based off of an ideological stance, right? Because, people will argue and say, hey, like, well, advertisers and apocalypse. It's like, well, dude, get the fuck out of here. If you are Target,
there's a box
and
that
you don't
can
know how to exclude.
Yeah, there's a box you could check to exclude gun-related material.
It's super easy.
It takes a second.
But they chose to demonetize.
Because it's not about protecting the consumer, the advertiser. It's about being punitive towards you because they disagree with you politically.
Correct.
That's all it is.
Correct.
Right?
And so for me, I feel like freedom of speech, and they'll argue, hey, look, you can still express yourself, you can still publish content, but you've removed the incentive mechanism. Like you change the rules of the game after signing a contract with me saying that we'll play this game, and it sucks to have the rug pulled out on. Other people will argue and say, hey, well, you were building on their platform. Okay, well, cool. Other people will say, oh, I'll build this other platform. I'll have this, other full mag website that we host our own guns content and everything. Okay, but then you lose discovery, right? So right. I think that speech and commerce, they shouldn't, after the last 2 years, I think speech and commerce are really important,
inexorably linked as well.
The government shouldn't be able to shut you down based off of something that they don't, on emergency use authorization, right? Unless somebody's held accountable for it, for screwing up, you shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's that's a long-term problem though, right? You can't those problems seem big to us because they are big. Government spending and constant war and all this other bullshit and the infringement of our rights seems large to us, so we want to attack it at the point. You know what I mean? But that's not how you do that.
No,
you know what I mean?
and that's why I go back to
you don't
incentives.
If your elbow hurts, you don't put an aspirin in your elbow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you take what we were talking about earlier, you snap your fingers and the federal government's gone. That only comes with a revolution or a militarization of some sort.
And it's usually a new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so for me, I'm like, you take case studies. The one I love to give is the music industry. Music industry, this isn't pointing names at any one company, it's the industry as a whole, has historically resisted change. Right. And it's come at the cost of innovation and profitability. Had they embraced the whole Napster thing and said, hey, you know what, this digital revolution, we may not be able to push CDs, but we can scale digital
with far
cheaper,
less cost,
less in logistics.
Oh my God.
But the hindsight of 2020 is that's a no-brainer. But for them, it's resist change at all costs. So
but it was a no-brainer then. That's why Napster did it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Napster, but that ultimately led way to Apple, which became its own kind of problem in a lot of ways. So for me, in building these things for commerce and for speech, how do you create incentive mechanisms that empower the individual company in a way that disincentivize or detours centralization of an app store? Right. Yeah. Right. So
where Apple's taking a 30% cut.
That's exactly it. Right. And so how do you incentivize the studios to distribute through those app stores, and they'll get a cut, but it's not going to be the single source of distribution.
So where you're going with this is Web3.
Yeah.
And being able to, let's say, the future of Web3, I, as a private citizen, develop some product of some sort, whether it's digital or real, right?
Yeah.
And something like Web3 with some understanding of how it works and being able to some kind of mechanism that is intrinsic to the system that it would allow me to build my own infrastructure for a company, right? Would be, I mean, that's where we're headed right now. And it's like, it's like, what's that stupid site, Etsy? It's like Etsy, but for a truly decentralized Etsy where you're not paying anybody.
Right. And
except for people who are actually providing you value, not just for space. in the digital world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that value is such a broad term. Like, so for me, the way I look at it is like, if you create the infrastructure right, it's not just the products, it's the way you receive the products that you're incentivizing. So like there's the distribution component, there's the consumption component. It's like, how do you, like, you want to make a system so that there is no way an Apple or a Microsoft could compete,
Right.
because it would literally take every engineer in the world on their payroll. So you create incentive mechanisms for the collective to create and do good. Like Reddit is a good example in a lot of ways, like good comments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Generally, like, you actually can find really meaningful content on Reddit,
Right.
and through the community refining that whole process.
It's a much better version of a Twitter thread, I guess. Right.
So instead of having the Facebook algorithm as they see fit, think of it as having a collective of the entire internet competing for an algorithm that works good for you.
Because now you've actually got to provide real value to succeed, instead of just have. Well, I mean, what you're talking about is a monopoly on the other side. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It disincentivizes monopolies because they can't compete, because it will require them to hire everybody.
Yeah.
And then you just can't do it. So the focus goes from extracting value to creating value.
Yeah.
So your studios become a little bit more empowered, your YouTube creators or whoever.
But also the larger companies would find themselves in a position where they now need to stop extracting and start providing value, which it would, theoretically at least be better for everybody.
Ironically,
because they've got the resources to do something like that.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so ironically, it comes back full circle though, because the internet was heavily curated early on.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then it shifted from, because there was a bunch of garbage,
right?
Like, let's algorithmically find the better content. And now it may actually shift back to, let's incentivize curators to find things that either mean or hold value to people,
right?
And whatever that value is, could mean a healthier person. It could be just interesting or informative, whatever it is. But then, like, incentivize those people to curate to be your search optimization for you. So it's a big ambitious goal, and it's really like just focusing on these different things so that, like, industry can approach this thing in a way where they're equally as excited about the value proposition, because it's gonna optimize their profitability,
and it's
gonna scale.
It's an opportunity, and even despite the fact that it's decentralized and everybody's got the same swing at it, they're swinging a much larger bat.
Yeah.
Right. Which they're still way ahead of the game from anybody else, just from being able to, pool resources and build infrastructure. Right.
You don't want to be the person or the company that's, punk rock, anarchist looking to screw the man, because that comes with legal challenges.
Yeah.
And typically, if you're in that situation, like, you want to come to the table and say, hey, look, like, this thing it's gonna lead to more profitability for you. It's going to lead to less logistical vulnerabilities for you in your distribution, creation, whatever it is. So you're shored up long term, but also the individual benefits from it. You, like, truly symbiotic relationships. Like, anything that goes too far parasitic on the pendulum swinging one side or another is generally going to have some type of consequences.
Yeah. I mean, when pendulums swing, that's what they do. But when they swing too far, too fast, it takes them longer to stabilize. Yeah. And that's a problem, right? Especially for economies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, an unstable economy that lasts longer than a couple of years typically ends that economy permanently. You know what I mean? Yeah. So obviously not a great thing. This has been a really interesting conversation. We went a lot of places.
Yeah.
But I just want
like we didn't even like we just opened the can on it. Like, we didn't even touch the surface. But
we'll do another one.
Yeah.
We'll do a series of these where
that's great. And like, for everybody listening in, like, I genuinely would love to hear your thoughts as to, again, like, if there's any takeaway from this, it's opinions are cheap. Execution is difficult. So if you have any opinions as to a thesis for how we could improve society as citizens, and be it with our families or communities or politics, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, same. I like to crowdsource that, because everybody's living the same life but different. then that perspective, that different perspective, oftentimes is the driver of innovation, right?
I agree.
Like some person in a fucking office, some secretary probably at some point thought of the idea for the paperclip. It wasn't some engineer, I promise you that. It was somebody who was like, man, I wish these fucking things would stay together, and I'm tired of ripping staples out. Paperclip, you know what I mean? And you know, again, we're all living micro versions of these with our friends and family. It's like a little micro government or community where everybody's got roles, everybody's got responsibilities. How do you people always ask me, when's the right time? Because things have been fucked up for a while in America. People ask me, when's the right time to act? Like, and I'm like, what do you mean by act? You're talking about like overthrowing the government or something? Because that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Not only is it stupid, but it wouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
And the ensuing chaos would put so many lives at risk. But you can take power back from the government, and it begins with you being a good citizen, right? Which is taking care of the people around you, and you get larger from there, right? Yeah. That's how it works. So, and
hey, like I'm the first to admit, there's not a lot of time in the day.
Yeah,
not
enough.
Working, considering the economy and everything else, like it's hard finding time to do certain things. But I think that's the byproduct of why we're in the situation we're in, right? Is because people are like struggling to find time to do anything, spend time with their families and stuff like that.
And then some hero comes along, oh, we'll do that for you. I'm just going to charge you 40% of your fucking income for it, bud.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, it's a tall order, and it's a very, very broad solution, but I think it's equally as important.
Yeah, I agree. Tell everybody where they can find you if you'd want to be found.
It doesn't matter. Like I'm Richard Ryan, social media. Like,
spelled the traditional ways, by the way. He doesn't have
RICHARDRYAN.
Yeah, he doesn't have. It's not RIIA.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't fall into a box very conveniently. It's hard for people to know what they're getting into, where they find me. So like Twitter, I'm very technology, crypto driven in my conversations. Instagram, I don't really post a lot too, but typically there's like dogs and guns and stuff, and YouTube, same thing. So kind of all over the place, but
cool. Well, thanks for coming today. I appreciate it. I know you had to drive at least 8 or 9 minutes to get here, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. We'll do this again sometime, and we'll just ramble for
we
an
could
hour.
Do a state of technology or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thanks for coming again. Thank you all for watching. This has been Citizen.